Get my stream up.
Stream swapped over. Everything is looking good.
All right. Connect mine.
Oh, I forgot to turn the ice machine off. Of course.
Yep. Gotta go take care of that.
It is quite important.
I mean, we are getting to those months.
Yeah. Not that ice machine.
All right. I got mine up.
Oh, what happened?
What? Did you break things?
No, it's like maybe.
Maybe.
Hang on.
Do you want to pull up YouTube? Hold on.
Okay, we're all right. We're fine.
Oh, we're good? Okay.
Yeah. Just
For
for some
now.
reason, everything minimized. And I was like, well, I don't think I hit the minimize thing, but whatever. So we're ready to go whenever.
All right. I was just double checking, make sure I don't have alerts, which I don't. All right.
Yeah.
All right. What's up, nerds, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things competitive Overwatch and Overwatch 2. I'm your host, Simply Drunk, and we got an interesting show tonight. We kind of had a little bit of a bombshell, I wanted to say announcement, more of a quote-unquote updates in regards
Denouncement.
to, a certain major component that was promised when Overwatch 2 was initially announced, when they couldn't really figure out what the hell this game was or how to, get the word out. Like, is it a sequel? Is it an expansion pack? That was the whole ordeal, and obviously we've talked that to death. But yeah, like I will be honest, guys. Been a very bittersweet week. Even after having some additional time to kind of think things over. But we're gonna save the PvE update for our main discussion tonight. When Ramses is here, because I feel like all of us are in a similar mind frame. But we do have some updates to the roadmap that, at least for me personally, are really make or break in regards to that component of the game. Now that being said, of course, with me tonight, as always, is my co-host Spyder. And Spider-Man, like it's been a couple of weeks. I feel like we have at this point gone through at least 10 stages of grief. We've seen a lot of major content creators who aren't even known for Blizzard titles kind of like coming out of the woodwork. Hasn't necessarily been great for us by any stretch of the imagination. But meanwhile, we've also had a lot of stuff going on with the Overwatch League. We had some of the spring knockouts for the East. We got to see some contenders Korea teams really take it to the Overwatch League, which has been exciting. But yes, still a lot to look forward to on the competitive fronts. But obviously still a little bit of sour grapes, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I mean, I'll save the big portion of that for the main discussion. Even last week when it was the wound was fresh, I didn't want to talk about it right then on Null Sector, just because it's going to be a conversation that has to be had. But to the other stuff, there was some cool stuff happening. Overwatch League over the weekend was actually really entertaining. I don't know if you watched any of the tournament on the APAC side, but a lot of those games were really, really good. The O2 Blast game particularly was like a banger. Dallas isn't going to be the first team eliminated, which was good enough for me considering the way they started. But yeah, I mean, we've got a bunch of the competitive stuff to talk about, and then hopefully Ramses joins us later. I don't know if you've heard from him, but I haven't heard anything from him. So we can talk about the PVE. So, but as Ramses does, he'll float his way in here at like the most inopportune time. So. Yeah, I mean it has been a busy a couple of weeks for me personally. Like this is like the end of May is always really big for us because that's like when the kids school is getting done. That is when Lily has her dance recital. My work always has like their team building thing at the end of May. So like these past 2 weeks, I actually really haven't gotten to play much of anything. Like I dove into the new Destiny season tonight for the first time, and that launched on Tuesday. I got in to test like another game that's under NDA, and I've got to play like 15 minutes of it. So,
Hmm.
um, there's stuff that I want to play. So, unfortunately, with kind of the news of Overwatch and just everything else going on, I actually haven't played any Overwatch since I think last like Wednesday. So, yeah, this is like the longest break I've taken in Overwatch since I think Overwatch 2 launched. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah,
And before
that'll
that, like the multiple years of no content updates.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, it's you know, but I will talk about it later.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going on, man? So yeah, just for those who don't know, if you guys are looking to keep in contact with us on social media, of course, you can find us over on Twitter at HND Overwatch. We also have a lot of video content over on YouTube and YouTube.com/slash Overwatch League Network. You can also find us there at HND Overwatch. And of course, obviously, the best thing to do is to join us on our community Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. We're usually talking over in there. But yeah, definitely it's been a busy couple of weeks for me too, Spider. Like I've been working a ton of overtime. I am super exhausted. I just woke up from a nap. So like my energy level is either gonna be really atrocious or really good. And I can't tell what it's gonna be yet. But obviously like I'm gonna get more excited as we progress into the esports stuff. Uh and then I'll probably mellow out because that's just the course of things. It's gonna be a roller coaster today, not the solar coaster, the roller coaster, because there's good, there's bad, and then there's just outright ugly. That's just how it goes, unfortunately. But on the Overwatch front, really quick, just in case you don't know, that Reinhardt cardboard skin is in the game.
Yeah, I did see that.
Okay, because I
But
know I know you were looking forward to it.
I am I am debating whether or not to buy it at this point. I
Okay.
think should be a a hint at how I feel things are going. Um,
Mhm.
Compare that to how excited I was for that skin. So yeah,
Right.
I probably will still end up picking it up just because I have the coins on the account. Um, but I'm kind of iffy on it now, so we'll
Mhm.
see. But I did see they launched that, and I guess the Symmetra event launched as well.
You did.
So I will at least log in and do the event and stuff like that just to get the skins and stuff. Uh, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about the shop right now.
I'm pulling up the pickums really quick to see how awful I did this
I
past week.
I didn't get a single one right because I didn't do my pickums at all last week.
Oh, fantastic.
I forgot um
That was
Friday.
week 4. All right.
Yeah, I forgot Friday, and then I just had no time over the weekend to get them in
Mhm.
before before they closed. So like I got to watch
Hmm.
some of the matches, but by time, I was done with everything for the day, they had already started. So I yeah.
Man, I wish I had like MK stuff just like on my soundboard so I could just do a flawless victory since you didn't fill it out. So just putting up the goose egg. But it is what it is. I'm just curious to see how I did compared to Alkis because he's the one who's been filling things out.
Stomping our asses.
Uh, okay, West 4, I had 26 points. Owl had 23. Okay. Uh, all right, Group A. Oh man, he beat me and he beat me with the knockouts, which is fine.
Ah,
10-8 on Group A and 6-5 in Group B. So yeah, we didn't do too great on that front, but today is it's a new week. We'll see how we do
yep.
on that front. But yeah, needless to say, you were officially back in last because you forgot to do a week. But
Yeah.
I
Is
still
my
got
handicap.
I still got 46 points to make up, which still pretty daunting to say the least.
Nah, that's like 3 double points games and a whole bunch of other games.
Yeah, yeah.
Only like
That
13
is
other games.
more than a handful,
Yes.
even more than a couple handfuls. But I digress. All right, so what's been going on, at least on the esports side of things? We did have some Overwatch World Cup taking place here this past week. I know there was a, I don't want to say caster drama, but I did see a lot of like tier two caster talent a little upset that casting opportunities basically go into Overwatch League talent
Hmm.
for the Overwatch World Cup. That just seems to happen time and time again. I can't really
Yep.
say too much on that, but there's also been times in the past where it's just like even some of the Overwatch league talent just not being present at major events themselves that
Yeah,
are
exactly.
Overwatch League based. So it sucks if you are on the grind in Path to Pro and at front, but opportunities are still gonna be there at the contenders level, and yeah, also like calling all heroes, for example. But we had basically like Europe round robin games that were taking place, which I know we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
So we had two groups. We had Denmark, Portugal, and Ireland in Group A, then Finland, Iceland, and Switzerland in Group B. Obviously, the major teams, Denmark and Finland, both absolutely no problems making it into the Overwatch World Cup. And outside of that, it was Portugal and Iceland being the two other qualifiers. And I'll be honest, like I did not have an opportunity to check this out because I figured it was going to be a lot of 2-0
Hmm.
games. And sure enough, it was literally every single game was to Overwatch.
Yep.
So you had Denmark and Finland winning all four of their maps, and then of course Portugal and Iceland basically split the difference. Switzerland and Ireland not picking up a map in either case.
Nope.
Which is unfortunate because like I always enjoyed in the past like Ireland's social media presence for the Overwatch World Cup. So to see them kind of like flame out, definitely a little bit of a disappointment. But it was just a 9-day difference in regards to like team balance when it comes to like more the super teams compared to their other European counterparts in this case.
Yeah, and they talked about it on Plat Chat a little bit, how like the World Cup has always been in like tiers, and you always have like your
Hmm.
tier one, which is like USA, Korea, and China, and Canada, and then after that it's like there is not many tier two teams, if any, and then there's like tier three teams, and then there's like tier five teams.
Hmm.
So there's always that sleeper chance, but you know if you look at these teams and you see who's on them, you're like, I know that guy, I know that guy, I know that guy for Denmark and Finland. But for the other teams, you're like, I've never heard of any of these people, which, kind of translates to results. I did find it funny that both Group A and Group B had the exact same spread for wins and losses across the group. So they like the top team was 4-0, the next team was 2-2, and the next team was 0-4. Um, and that that's just funny that it was exactly the same for both groups. But I haven't gotten a chance to watch them. I went to look for them the other day, and I did eventually find them, but they did not make them easy to find. So honestly, unless you're like diehard like us, I don't think you need to watch any of these matches. Like maybe watch Denmark and Finland just to kind of get a feel for the teams. But other than that, we'll wait for the I don't know, closer to the event when we're starting to get into like the serious knockout rounds and stuff like that.
I had to get a beer while you were doing it. But anyways, okay. Outside of
Getting
that, we
ready.
also had gotta prepare myself for what is about to come. But yeah, so we had the East Spring knockouts going on for the Spring stage, and as we had mentioned, like this was going to be a mix of Korean Overwatch League teams and also Chinese going up against contenders Korea counterparts, which more full fledged compared to like what we were seeing in regards to like some of like the wouldn't say like qualifiers, but kind of like some of the preseason stuff that was going on,
The
which was
Pro-Am.
definitely more one-sided with the Pro Am. So we had teams like Poker Face, Dreamers, and Rhodes Pantera, who obviously has a very storied history in Canada's Korea. O2 Blast, aka the San Francisco Shock Feeder team, who were looking pretty good. We also had Sin Priza Gaming as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like no surprise, O2 Blast really being the standout amongst the Contenders Korea teams. Big shocker there. Doesn't matter like how gutted that team is like during the off season. And it's been a constant thing. That team has constantly been rebuilding, and to see them continue to find success, both not only in Contenders Korea but now also in the Overwatch League too, is absolutely great to see. But all in all, like I have to say, like filling out the bracket for this particular tournament was really nerve wracking to me because it's like, man, I'm not as well versed in Contenders Korea as I used to be like 3 or 4 years ago. Like I haven't really had the time to consume as much as I want to in regards to competitive Overwatch. So when I got to this week, I'm just like, man, I'm trying to remember who's on these teams. Because like I remember watching like some of the qualifiers for this. I was like, yeah, I remember this team doing fairly well. But a lot of these teams like don't have the same like history as like a Panthera or
Mm-hmm.
O2 Blast. So like it was just trying to like draw my memory like, okay, who's actually on this team? All right, are there any notable names? How much former Overwatch League talent is on here? And I wouldn't say like it was a huge laundry list of talents, but it's probably like 7 or 8 players at least that used to be in the Overwatch League who are competing on these teams who are going
Mm-hmm.
up against these Overwatch League talents. So to kind of like see that play out, see if there's any storylines stemming from that, and also just seeing whether or not the Charge and the Spark can just continue that level of dominance that we have been seeing from both fronts. It's definitely been like the major storyline to like kind of follow through here, and also seeing okay who's going to be the first Overwatch team to dip out of this tournament. Because like we know it was going to happen just based off of how the bracket was being laid out.
Well, it might actually be 27th, 27th. It might actually be the Dynasty. I think the Dynasty have the first. Yeah, the Dynasty have the first game this week.
Mm-hmm.
So if they lose to Dreamers, they would technically be the first Overwatch League team out of the tournament. I don't think they should lose to Dreamers. Because I actually thought Dreamers were going to be better than what I saw. Because I did watch the qualifier. Dreamers looked really good, and you mentioned you don't know who's on what team. Dreamer is on Dreamers, so that's an easy one to remember. Uh, but Poker Face actually really surprised me. Like they looked really good in their game against the Charge. I feel like could have went a lot differently. They just let it. They just kind of let it the Charge get away from them. Um, but I think on any other day, I think it would have been much closer. Uh, the other one that was really good. I kind of alluded to it earlier. Was the Soul Infernal O2 Blast game? Like that 3-2 game, that was a banger match. Like that almost was like a semifinal, like championship quality match. Like the back and forth between those two. Um, what was it? It was it MN3 and um was it Knife? It was either I think it was Knife. Those two were like going back and forth. So it was a phenomenal game. I the only one I watched completely because I caught parts of the the Soul. Well, I caught parts of most of them. I did watch Soul Inferno and O2 Blast, and then I watched the Dallas game because I was like, all right, I am absolutely watching this Dallas game. So we did like a huge clean out last weekend of all the kids' toys. So I made Nikki suffer through the Dallas Fuel Sin Prisma gaming match. So I watched all of that one, and Dallas looked pretty good, but Prisma Gaming actually surprised me too because they had some interesting reads on how to attack certain points that I hadn't
Mhm.
seen, other teams do. So I hope, people pick up on that and go forward. But I'm a little worried this week because we have to play the Infernal again, which I don't know if you saw the power rankings last week, but I actually had Infernal as my top ranked APAC team. So I'm like, great, that's who we have to play. So we'll see how it goes. But overall, so far, nothing super surprising has come out of this tournament. I mean, other than the uncertainty of the contenders teams, Guangzhou and Hangzhou are top of their
Mhm.
bracket, and Dallas and Seoul are top of their bracket. So that's not too surprising at this point. So we'll see how far O2 Blast can go. I honestly think if Seoul does not get knocked out, then the Dragons are absolutely going to be the first Overwatch League team to get knocked out. They just, I don't know. They every time I feel like they're making progress, the next game they regress. Like it's like
Mhm.
literally one step forward, two step back kind of thing. Um, and it's like fundamental problems, and it's hard to watch because I'm like, I know in any other team, you like the people on their team could pull this off. It's just like I don't know. They tried to put like a square peg in a round hole,
Mhm.
and that has thrown off the whole machine because these are like top tier players or near top tier players, and they are making mistakes that we don't see in plat. Like they're not pushing for advantage. They're not taking map control. Like literally, there's certain points when Fleda's just chilling on the payload as the tank, and I'm like,
Mhm.
no, like what other level tank at this level is sitting on the payload? Like no, they are like 3 blocks away trying to figure out how to harass the enemy team while Lucio's on the payload, or something. So yeah, I don't want to be too hard on the Dragons until I see this week, but next week I am going to be extra hard on the Dragons if they have not made serious improvement.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense though, because when I'm watching the Dragons and I'm watching Fleda's POV, I'm just like, all right, we're not really creating space here. All right, let's see how they take advantage of this 5v4 situation. Oh, they're not engaging. Okay. We'll see how this works. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it plays out. And it doesn't really work out too well for them. So yeah, to see them drop, that 5 map series in first game, it wasn't too much of a surprise.
Mm-mm.
I will say though, in regards to like the O2 Blast and Infernal game, I did have it going 5 maps. I did not have Infernal beat in O2 Blast, so I got that one wrong, unfortunately. But it's the Infernal special, just going to a 5 map series. It's kind of like a
Uh-huh.
done deal at this point, where I wouldn't say like it's a guarantee, but probability is probably still like 70-30 at this point in time, just because it's definitely become more of a meme over the years, and it's stayed true regardless of if they're in Philadelphia or now in Seoul, Korea. It just sticks with them. No rebrand can change their true identity. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. The Philly special lives on. So we'll see, coming up. Like the next week, like I said, the O2 Blast game I'm looking forward to just to see how it goes. I really want to see Rhodes step up because I thought Rhodes were gonna be, one of the teams to watch, and they just got rolled by the Dynasty. Like
Hmm.
that was definitely one of the games where I was like, all right, the Dynasty's back, and then they played the Spark, and the Spark were like, no, nope, to the lower bracket you go. Like they just every time the Dynasty tried to do something against the Spark, they just stopped them like dead in their tracks. So I hope Rhodes does pretty well. It would be interesting to see like a Dreamers versus Rhodes match, but I do want to see Soul Dynasty step up a little bit. Obviously, Spark and Charge. The rematch will be interesting because that basically is going to determine which Zhou team goes to the or has the I guess I'll hedge my bets a little bit. Has the possibility to go to midseason madness, but I think at that point, whichever one of those makes it, probably will go all the way based off of what we've seen the other teams in that bracket do. I think honestly at this point, other than maybe Prisma Gaming pulling something out, the clear favorite is a O2 Blast. Like for
Mhm.
contenders teams, like they were the favorites going in, and they're still the favorites after what we've seen last week. So, um, I could see them pulling off a lower bracket run and making it all the way. Uh, so we'll see how this week turns out. But I am excited to watch more APAC. Like I am enjoying APAC this season because honestly, um, I initially started watching it as the meme just because Dallas was there, but
Right.
I'm actually really enjoying the competition because there are no like other than the Dragons, there are no bad teams in APAC. Like I feel like any week, any of these teams can win or lose any of their games. So that's exciting to watch. It's basically coming down to who drops the spaghetti the most at this point.
Hmm. And who's actually willing to create the space for the DPS players? Oh wait, that's most of the tanks outside of
Right.
Fleta.
That
You would think someone known for like deadlifting the team, for getting all these kills would at least maybe consider returning the favor, for his fellow DPS players.
he's deadlifting the team in the other direction now. I think
Yeah,
I think they had
it's
a
a
stat like
Fleta
that.
anchor, Fleta
Yeah.
anchor at this point.
Flood is dead. That's it. That's just the end of the sentence. Flood is dead. That's just how it goes.
That's unfortunate. Over on the NA side of things this past week, pretty paint by the numbers, I would say, honestly. We didn't even have
Mm-hmm.
like a map 5 across the board.
Nope.
Vegas Eternal still struggling, really no surprise on that front. Basically getting 3-0'd both by Boston and then later by the LA Gladiators. It's
Yep.
also been an interesting watch in regards to London and whether or not they could like make the Rhine Brawl actually work in this current meta.
The answer
Still,
is no.
still struggling on that front. I ended up getting swept by the Titans and also lost to
Houston.
the Houston Outlaws 3-1 later in the week.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Valiant is still struggling. But I will say the one caveat to that, at least in Toronto's favor, is like the Toronto LA Valiant match was one I definitely had a close eye on because it's just like, all right, like Toronto has definitely been a team that were like they should be better than the LA Valiant, so they need to come out and just dominate, and they did get the sweep in this case. So like it was at least nice to see like an expectation being met by the Defiant in a week. Because outside of that particular match, it has just been struggle after struggle for this team.
Mm-hmm.
So like even them getting a map win over like Boston later in the week was something of note, but still, it's like they're not the very bottom of the barrel, but it's just like they're barely above the water at this point in time. Like it still feels like they're constantly playing catch up to even a lot of like these mid-table teams so far here in the West.
It's true, and it's about time to start being a little tougher on Toronto because we had a lot of high expectations for them coming into the season, but they have not met any of them. Like they are struggling hard. Whereas Valiant, we had no expectations, and
Mm,
they're living up to those no expectations pretty well. Although I will say that over the past 2 weeks, we have seen signs of life against the Valiant. Um, are with from the Valiant. And they've played some tough teams over the last two
they
weeks.
have.
Outside of Toronto, they had Florida, they had Atlanta, and then they had San Francisco, which you can argue San Francisco if you want to get nitty gritty. But San Francisco is still a very, um, I don't want to say, I guess, like talent rich team. So they have the possibility to just pop off at any moment, despite playing out of a hotel still. Um, so yeah, there are signs to life to the Valiant. Like even in the power rankings, I still put the Valiant above the Eternal because I still feel like we've just seen more life out of them than we have out of the Eternal.
Hmm.
Honestly, the only time we've ever seen anything positive out of the Internal was when they benched their player for a GM, which that's never a good sign.
Yeah, we need the in case of emergency, break a glass, enter a Vala meme.
Yeah, exactly.
Just about any time that the Eternal are playing.
But like you said, everything else out of the week was fairly standard. The Vancouver game against London was really good. I think it was one of the first times all season that we've seen what the two DPS on Vancouver can do if you let them run free. Like we've seen them have standout games and standout maps, but that showcase against London really shows you that these two DPS can do a lot of damage if left unchecked. So that was exciting to watch. Um, the Houston shot game, everybody was kind of hyping up, but honestly, Houston just knew how to handle the shock at that point, and there is a conversation coming about the shock. Like they should be doing much better than what they currently are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not quite ready to have that yet because I do feel like I don't know that it's taking teams a lot longer to find their footing this season, and if they are playing out of a hotel, that is kind of shitty. So I am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt there, but that's only going to go so far. Like I feel like past mid season, that's you know if they don't make it to mid season madness, or at least do well into the pro not the pro am the like knockout rounds, I think that's the time when Shock are going to have to fundamentally change what they're trying to do, because clearly like proper go kill isn't working as well in this meta, so it's exposing a lot of holes. But yeah, I mean, and I'd hate to say it, but this coming week's matches, I don't know. Like
Yeah. I mean, not
yeah.
looking so hot to be honest. I mean, you
Atlanta
just look
versus
at the
Boston could be good.
yeah. So just taking a quick look at the schedule, we got Spitfire versus Gladiators. Spitfire definitely gonna struggle on that front. Eternal face the Rain for their first match. That'll definitely be a 3-0 in that case. Just exists Celsior. I mean, out of those three, like that might be the best one. Yeah, I mean, we got Houston Mayhem.
Yeah, that one could be good. I still feel like
That one
Houston
has some
has,
potential.
unless Mayhem have figured out their weaknesses, because Mayhem, if you let someone do what he wants on Winston, I think can I see. Even then, I don't know if they can compete with Houston because you're talking about Fearless versus someone, and this is like the battle of like the anime main characters, um, and that's like a toss up. Like I obviously am gonna lean Fearless just because of what we've seen, but someone has been hot this year. The difference is as soon as they go to like a brawl comp, Houston is gonna blow Florida out of the water because Florida's like every time Florida has tried to do the brawl comp, they have either looked bad at it or just barely scraped by. So people, I think, if we can deduce that, the coaches have to know that is their weakness. So as soon as they're given a brawl map, I feel like it's going to lean heavily in Houston's favor. So I'm still going Houston pretty heavily on that one. But it could turn out to be a banger match just based on what maps they pull for the week.
Yeah, we also have Defiant versus Spitfire. That'll be a good eyeball test for those two teams since both of them have had quite a few struggles throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
And like, will the Rhine Brawl be able to work against a team like Defiant? More likely than than some of the other teams out there. We also got Uprising versus the Rain. Some potential in that one, but just based off of what we have seen, the Rain are kind of just in a league of their own at this point in time.
Yep.
But yeah, still some quality games across the board though. Titans Outlaws should be entertaining. We'll see whether or not Sugar Free can continue to just absolutely assassinate the backline, which has been a fun watch.
Yeah. I think Washington Gladiators could be a good match on the last day, just because I think that'll be a good test for Washington. Washington's getting a little big for their britches at this point. So we'll
Mhm.
see if they can continue the upward trend, or if maybe they're about to hit the wall that I think a lot of us kind of expect that they're about to hit. So we'll see how they do. I am rooting for both of these teams in that game because I really like the Gladiators team this year. And I hope they do well so they get to stick around. But I obviously I'm rooting for Washington just as the home team. Like I always root for them, despite my disappointment.
All right, then looking at the east side of things with the continuation of the knockout stage for the spring. We have the upper bracket final between the Charge and the Spark. And then on the lower bracket side, we have Dreamers facing the Soul Dynasty and Rhodes versus Poker Face. So the
Yeah.
winners of that will face each other, and then the winner of that will face the loser of Spark versus Charge. But just like looking at how like the layout is currently at this point with the brackets, who do you have winning this one? Because I know like obviously like the Charge kind of like get the best of the Spark the last time they met. Are you
Yeah.
kind of like expecting a similar thing to play out here in the tournament?
I, I'm actually gonna go on the dark horse pick and say the Spark are gonna pull it out. The last map, the last time they played, it was really just Jimmy running wild.
Hmm.
I would hope to think that the Spark will not let that happen again. Especially with their DPS. Like I feel like the Sparks DPS can compete with the Charge. It's just I think last time the Sparks DPS had a subpar game, compounded by the fact that Jimmy was just going fucking nuts.
Hmm.
So I actually am gonna lean the Spark um, for that bracket. So I honestly think the Spark are gonna make it out, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Charge do as well, because Jimmy could just pop off again, and who knows? There's no one that can stop him at that point. I don't think any of the other teams really have a chance. I'd love for one of the contenders teams to make a run, but honestly, as good as Poker Face looked, and as hyped as I was for Dreamers, uh, the Charge and the Spark just have looked too good this season for me to say that they have any sort of chance against them.
And then on the other side of, or the other group, we have the upper bracket final between the Soul Infernal and the Dallas Fuel. Then in the lower bracket, we still have Panthera, Sin Persa Gaiman, and we have Shanghai Dragons versus O2 Blast. Now, I will say I do not have Shanghai Dragons advancing at this point of the tournament.
Nope.
I actually had O2 Blast going pretty deep in this. So, I mean, just looking at, since it is lower bracket and it's all, I mean, outside of Shanghai Dragons, who are as close to Contenders Korea as you could be as an Overwatch League team, uh, O2 Blast should be able to make it into at least lower bracket final
Easily.
in this. I'm really hoping they just make it into the grand final. So I really want to see that run because it would just be so true to like this team's identity because this has been the team who has just been absolutely crushing. And we've always heard the discussion of like, oh well, this contenders team is scrimming really well against the Overwatch League teams, and then like for the
Mm-hmm.
longest time, we never were able to see that play out in real time on a major broadcast until now at this point. So hopefully they can continue to make that run. But Sin Persa Gaming has definitely turned some heads in this, but they're definitely a little underwhelming compared
Mm-hmm.
to like what we're used to seeing from them too. So it's been kind of like an odd look because like we have certain expectations for like these really storied franchises, and at least with Panthera in particular, like it hasn't really panned out quite to the extent that we were hoping to see. But I honestly think Shanghai will be the first one out in regards to like the Overwatch League teams in this tournament.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like they would be the clear favorites, I guess, for the first team out, like Overwatch League team out. But as far as the rest goes, the safe bet is the Infernal. O2 Blast is probably the next safest bet. Uh, the least safest bet is probably the Fuel, but that's who I'm going with. No bias. No,
No bias.
Honestly, if I had to choose, I would actually probably choose O2 Blast just for the fun of it. Obviously, I as a Dallas Fuel fan, I hope they get to go, but um, the way they've played and the weaknesses that they have, I don't think that they could stand up against a more well-rounded team in this meta. Had we got that Junker Queen patch, different story, completely different story. But I do feel like the fuel is getting better. Like I feel like the back line is kind of assimilating to the hive mind at this point. Like they are definitely getting in there. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna go O2 Blast just because I can't choose the Infernal just out of the fact that they used to be Philly, and I know how that curse goes.
Yep.
So I would love for them to break it, but no, I am not. I am going O2 Blast.
Spyder's just like, we've been here before.
I have seen
Multiple
this.
times.
I have seen this live in person on multiple occasions.
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna go O2 Blast just for the fun of it.
God, I hope so. That would definitely make some headlines and just add to the lore behind that team. Right, so turning gears, obviously, like with general Overwatch stuff, we did have some major Blizzard news. In particular, the return of BlizzCon officially. So it's been a while. 4 years
Yup.
to be exact. Because we haven't had one since 2019, at least not officially in person since 2019.
Yep.
So we are back in Anaheim at the Convention Center for BlizzCon 2023, which is going down on November 3rd and November 4th. And like we obviously it's a big year for Blizzard. Obviously, we're still like kind of going through the whole Microsoft buyout and seeing how that's unfolding over the course of time. It's looking better as time progresses, not as negative as early on.
Yep.
With some of the denials happening on that stage. But we got Diablo 4 right around the corner. Obviously, we got the Overwatch World Cup culminating at BlizzCon as well. So at least there's going to be one esport at the event minimum.
Yeah.
Who knows what else outside of that? I honestly have no idea. But they basically said in the announcement that we are expected to have some more news in regards to BlizzCon at some point next month, which include ticket information, stuff for like the competitions, whether it's cosplay, talent shows, or what have you. And I have to say, like, obviously for me, like this is a very big deal. Seeing a community, both Overwatch and also Warcraft for me is always like a highlight of the year. We just had Warcraft coming out with like this new limited series called The Guild, and our guild convert to raid had the first episode. So seeing people I know being involved in that project was really brought back a lot of feels, seeing a lot of prior BlizzCon photos from a lot of friends.
Yeah, that was
And,
pretty cool.
We got to see my good friend Pasha in her Kill Jaden cosplay in that with the silver bolt. So a lot of cuddles in photos on there as well. And obviously, like I've known Sal for a really long time. And sure, we've had our ups and downs, but really at its core, CTR has always been family, regardless of if I still play World of Warcraft or not. But like I've made lifelong friends through Warcraft, primarily through that guild in particular. So to get to see them is obviously like a huge deal, and obviously the community events as well. In regards to Calm Before the Storm, I don't think CTR will do a party this year, but you never know. But obviously, Calm Before the Storm is always one of the biggest community events taking place. They typically also do panels as well for the different Blizzard titles. We'll see what happens on that front. Because I have led quite a few of the Overwatch ones over the years, with some of our very own, for that matter.
Yep.
And even our very close friends on that, even if I'm not the one selecting people for the panel itself. But I'm just really excited. Obviously, like I already booked my hotel for the trip. I'll be out in Vegas for TwitchCon a couple of weeks before that. So like those particular 2 weeks, I'm just like, man, my liver better be ready. But also, like, I feel like after those 2 weeks, my social battery is gonna be so fucking drained that I'm just gonna be like a shell of my former self at that point. But it's
Eh,
just gonna be a wave of emotion.
as an antisocial person who prefers the indoors, everything you just said physically hurt to
That
listen
hurts
to.
me. Yeah.
So, uh, no, BlizzCon I think will be a lot of fun. You know, I'm curious to see more specifics because, like I said, I'm still under the assumption that it's going to be a little different than it was before. Um, and you know the fact that there is only one esport is a little interesting. Husky Starcraft actually brought back Bronze League Heroes, and I've been watching those as he's premiering them, and I'm like, man, I fucking miss watching Starcraft like that. That was some fun esports. Like, even if you didn't know what it was going on, like that was just fun to watch. Like guys jiggling Marines around and stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm curious to see what BlizzCon does. Of course, you know the next big announcement is going to be uh, virtual ticket packages and what you get in the
Right.
virtual goods package. So I'm curious to see how that goes because I will say, over the past 4 years since we have had a BlizzCon, um, they have really stepped up their virtual goods in all of their games. Like Diablo 4 is doing Twitch drops, Overwatch is doing Twitch drops, World of Warcraft is doing Twitch drops. So you know their virtual catalog has expanded. So I'm curious to see what they do in terms of that. My personal hope is that they let us buy the goodie bags again, even if we don't get
Hmm.
to go, because that was always like the most fun thing for me. Because obviously, being on the East Coast with 3 kids, like you know, BlizzCon's kind of out of the realm of possibility for me. 98% of the time.
Yeah, they literally have to bring it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, so you know, getting the goodie bags was kind of like my little way of being there, and I still have a framed picture of Logan when he was like 2, um, running around with that inflatable Reinhardt hammer. So you know that stuff is always good fun. Like I found like the Baneling Zergling thing that they sold one year that was like one of those reversible plushies. Um, so you know that stuff's always a lot of fun. So I'm excited that BlizzCon's back. More so for like people like you who get to go. But it is going to be nice to have access to all that stuff again. The only big downside to BlizzCon is that just means that probably starting maybe even now we're not going to hear anything about anything until BlizzCon because they're just going to save up the announcements. Like if there is like a Diablo, I don't think they'll do an expansion by now or a DLC, but maybe like a new class. If they have a new class, that's going to be announced at BlizzCon. Overwatch, like you know, what are they going to announce? PVE? No, Overwatch. You know, new hero announcement is generally what we get at BlizzCon, and obviously a lot of stuff as Overwatch has changed since then. World of Warcraft, I could 100% see them announcing a new World of Warcraft expansion because the timing there would be about right. Um,
I mean, same with Hearthstone. I mean, they just released like a mini set, so
right.
the next stage would be the expansion at that point.
Really, what I'm hoping for, and my enthusiasm has been lessened due to the recent events, is they announced that survival game that
Hmm.
they officially announced, but they said this is what we're working on. Like it's not like dev leak or anything. Like they made that official announcement. Like, hey, we are making a survival game. We are hiring now for it. We have more details coming in the future. Um, so like in the announcement of an announcement of an announcement type of
Hmm.
thing. But I hope we get to see that because outside of FPS and like MMOs, my favorite genre is survival games. Like I am
Okay.
like addicted to survival games. Like I cannot tell you how many dumb early access survival games I have played that I'm like, yeah, this game's gonna be great, and then it's not. But equally, I have played many that are good. Like currently, right now, I am playing through Small Lands, which is basically just Grounded, but a little different. So you're tiny. It's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like how you start to explain this. I'm just thinking, I have no idea what the hell you're talking
Uh,
about.
well, Grounded is pretty popular because it was made by Obsidian. People who made like Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm aware of the studio, yeah.
Yeah, so Grounded is literally Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like you start as a teenager that wakes up like miniature in the backyard, and you have to figure out what happened to you. But it is like a survival open world crafting game. Small Lands kind of, I mean, they were both developed at the same time, so I don't want to say they were stolen. But Small Lands goes a little more into the buildy area than the action area. So I am playing through that, but that is through early access. But anyway, long story short, I love survival games, like open world survival games. As long as it's not like Rust or like Gank City, like that kind of stuff, I'm not into. But yeah, I hope that is like the major announcement. Like I hope we get like an Overwatch level announcement for that. Like we get like the cinematic trailer, we get like gameplay trailer. Like this is being a survival game, I would be very surprised if it doesn't go into early access, because like that is just survival games mo, because there are so many systems, and shit, they did it with Overwatch 2 and then lied to us, so why not do it with a different genre? But it, anyway, yeah, that's what I'm looking for BlizzCon, so that's my official BlizzCon thing. All right, I think I've killed enough time to give Ramses a chance.
The last like build type game that I played was probably Cube World. It's been that long.
That's coming back. Did you hear about that?
Oh, no, I did not. Hold on. Let me just double check. Okay, so to put that in perspective, guys, because I'm really not a fan of the genre. But will I give the Blizzard one a fair shake? Absolutely. But just to put this in perspective, that game came out July 2nd, 2013.
Yeah. Well, really, it was popular in 2012, and then the developer released it in 2013 and then abandoned it. But now it's back because there is Cube World Omega that was announced this week.
And man, I gotta look this up.
And he said it was because it's developed by one guy. He said that it is in spirit of the original Alpha, so that's why he named it Omega, like Alpha and Omega, kind of thing. And it is supposed to recapture the original vision of what Cube World was supposed to be.
It's Final Fantasy 14 all over again.
Yeah, it's Cube World over A Realm Reborn. I have Cube World. I bought it during that rush in 2012, and I was like, this is great, I hope they build upon it, and then they never did, and then I, like everybody else, I forgot about it until
I mentioned it.
Yeah, exactly. So
and they announced this. All right.
But yes, no, I play a lot of survival games. If you ever want to go see, I have my own YouTube channel, and I put those videos up on my YouTube channel. So
right on. All right, so outside of that, obviously, like the biggest news drop this past week was the update on Overwatch 2 PvE. The thing that we've all been waiting for. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, but the main selling point that would make Overwatch 2, basically, we're not getting what we were promised, essentially. So we had I wouldn't. It was like a developer update. We also had a follow up from the developers with the director's take to give us a little bit more insight to, try to maybe put the hornet's nest back on the tree.
No.
That didn't really work out that well. And then, obviously, we had the Overwatch World Cup stuff streaming on YouTube at the time too. And needless to say, after the PvE news, the YouTube chat during the Overwatch World Cup was completely flooded
It
by
was not
talk of
pretty.
PvE, which should be no surprise. And we also had a lot of major content creators out there. I'm talking like Moist Critical, Donkey, Asmongold, a number of other Overwatch creators as well.
Ludwig.
CarQ, Ludwig, Stylosa, basically all like the major players when it comes to that. Like hell, even like Frito, like one of our close friends, was very livid when it came to like his response video to the announcement. And like I cannot remember another time over really since the start of Overwatch where I've seen Frito that upset over something, and rightfully so. And like, yeah, sure, we got a roadmap, for like season 5, 6, and 7, and it's like, okay, like there are some components of PvE to this, but it's just like we're all kind of at this point with Overwatch 2, at least with the PvE side, where it's like it was a literal gut punch. And like I know I'm of the mindset right now where like when it comes to the story missions, like it's definitely more of a make or break situation for me personally. But I also know for a lot of people in the community, after hearing the news, after living through the years of content drought because they were shifting personnel over to work on PvE components, only to have that completely gutted and to have something else different churned out, which is going to be a shell of its former self, is really just like, well, where'd all that time go?
Yep.
It's lost at this point. So it's like, regardless of how long I've had to like digest this information, it's just like, man, like I really feel for the community, and like it's really hard at this point to be like super hyped about what is to come from these PvE components, because it's like it's not what we were expecting. We're not getting like the deep hero pools that we originally promised. Which, like, I'll be honest, like when they showed like the initial pick 3, I was like, that's manageable. When they started to talk about the talent trees, I was just thinking like, that seems way too much. And sure enough, like, it's one of those ideas that you have on your vision board, and it's like, yeah, maybe really far down the road, maybe you can get to that point in time. But when you think about like how many researchers are going to have to go into that, how many man hours is it going to take to like actually flesh this out across the entirety of the hero pool, which is quite a bit at this point in time for Overwatch 2. Like, it seems to me like we always have like these grand visions. And we have just never been able to get to the point where we can make them achievable. It was the same with the Overwatch League when it comes to like the whole like travel aspect of being like a traditional league in that sense. That never came into fruition. And sure, like we had like kind of like, okay, like we have like the home cities, and maybe one week we'll travel here. That happened for a little bit of time. But, the model in regards to the homestand was never returning a profit either.
Yeah, it wasn't sustainable by far. No, the whole thing, like, first of all, it was really shitty of them the way they did it. So the whole thing, but we'll laser focus on the announcement first. So the announcement came at the tail end of a fucking Star Watch like documentary. Like, here's Star Watch, here's all the fun stuff we did to go into Star Watch. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, yeah, cool, your devs are really excited about Star Watch. Have you actually fucking played it? Like, it's not that great of a game mode. Like, I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's not even the best limited time mode you've done so far. Like, easily. And you've only done, so many of them. And then at the end, they're like, and we want to give an update on PvE. There is no PvE. But there is campaign missions. And that has been like the crutch that they are sticking on, is like, we're still really excited about the campaign missions. It's like, no, that's not what people like. Sure, there are people that are going to be excited for that, and I am excited for that aspect, but what I was looking for was the replayability. Like, I wish there was an easy way for me to share my screen without showing you all of my information, because I have over 1,500 hours in Destiny 2. And that doesn't include the time I spent in Destiny 1. Like, I love, looter shooters. I loved, the replayability. Like, I am that guy that will sit there and grind stuff over and over again until I get the weapon I want, or I get the high score on the leaderboard or something like that. And that's what I was excited for. And that's what I think a lot of people were, is a lot of people were like, I love the world of Overwatch. I love, the game of Overwatch, but I don't like playing Overwatch. Like, I don't like the PvP. I don't like, the shifting metas. I don't like, stuff like that. There's a lot of casual players that like Overwatch, but have, fallen out of love of the PvP game. So this was their way to come back in. And, Jeff said it like, the way back in the day, he's like, we wanted to redefine the sequel. And so many people were like, well, mission accomplished, because it's not a sequel at this point. Like, you guys just slapped a 2 on it. But yeah, like, the whole thing was shitty, because like, the more and more we learn about it, the more and more like it just feels like we were lied to the whole time. Because like, they were like, oh well, it was like a recent decision, and then we were like, we didn't know when to tell you. And then they're like, yeah, we kind of decided this like a year and a half ago. It was kind of getting out of control, and then recently we made the decision that we couldn't sustain that and support the live game. And I'm like, okay, but the sentence before that, you literally said that once the game launched, you shifted all your resources to supporting the live game. Like, which is it? Like, is it recent, or was it, 6 to 8 months ago when you launched the game? So like, it, and honestly, what they could have done to make things better has been like, hey, look, we've kind of known for a little bit that the scope was growing too large. This is the such and such time frame. Here is a campaign mission. Like, they should have showed us what they actually are going to give us, rather than just talk about it. Like, I think that would have softened it a little bit. Like, they were like, here is the intro story mission that you will get to play. Here is how it is going to be monetized, because that is the other thing. Like, I asked multiple developers, and I know other people have contacted developers, like people that have actually, have a little more reach than us, and none of them are talking about how we are going to be delivered these story missions. And I find that a little weird, because if it was just something that was either A, going to be given to us in the season pass, or B, just be something that comes with a season, then, they would just say it. Like, I don't think marketing or anybody would stop them from being like, okay, we need good press here, so just be like, you will get the story missions. Like, anybody in marketing would not stop that. They'd be like, look, we'll obviously do a big push later on, but if this will calm the hornet's nest down a little bit. But there has been no response on that, so
Which, basically tells you
it's going to be heavily
it's
monetized.
gotta be in the battle pass. It has to be.
And not even that. It's going to tell you that it might be a separate purchase outside of the battle pass, or it might be another tier of the battle pass. Because if you remember, the initial point of free to play was that so everybody could keep the multiplayer component, and then you would pay for the PvE component. Obviously, now that they have gutted the PvE component, it's a little harder of a sell. But if they price it correctly, then some people are going to buy it. I can tell you that I am going to look at it, and I am going to, honestly, that is going to be the make or break for me. Season 6 is going to be the big make or break for me, as far as like my future in Overwatch and how I feel about, Blizzard in general at this point. But going back to like the gutting of PvE rather than looking forward, we'll look at the current crisis. The whole situation is just awful, because like you can see it, like you can see when Jared is talking, um you can see it on Aaron's face, like he does not want to do this. And
Mhm.
I feel really bad for them. Like, I not too bad because it is Aaron's problem, but he inherited a lot of problems, and I feel like they have inherited a lot more problems than we know, just because of the fact of the ABK leadership. Like, I feel
Yep.
like it is 100% on the leadership's problem. Like, they keep talking about how they have increased the team size, they've doubled the team size, stuff like that. If Blizzard, not even Blizzard, if Activision wanted this to happen, it would have happened because they would have gave them the resources to do this. At the end of the day, what happened is Activision saw how much money they were making on shitty games like Diablo Immortal, and they said, this PVE thing that you want to make is not going to make us anywhere near the amount of money that this shitty thing that takes less resources is going to make. And then they launched Overwatch 2. I say launched, but they pre-released Overwatch 2 PvP with a cash shop, and I'm sure that ingested a whole bunch of more money in, and they were like, dude, just support this. This is going to make us a whole bunch of more money than the amount of, you know, whatever this PVE is going to make, regardless of how we monetize it. If we monetize it via a box sale, which has always been decent for Blizzard, that is still not going to make as much money as microtransactions. It's just proven in the industry at this point. So whatever happened, it 100% comes down to leadership being like, you are never going to get the resources to do what you want to do. And at this point, it has gotten so far out of your reach that you have to cancel it. Like, that's literally how I read this situation. And I have seen this kind of situation happen in my own job. Like, we have tried to develop new products, and we just couldn't. And because we are a smaller company, obviously we don't have that influx of cash, and we have to say, okay, well, we need to stop right now, get something out the door that can do what we need to do, and come back to that project later. So yeah, to me, it revolves around leadership, and it kind of goes back to my big problem with ABK as a whole that I've had over the past, I guess over the past 4 years. It's gotten the worst. And then the lawsuit came out and all that stuff came out. So I am, if this Microsoft merger doesn't go through, I am going to be a lot more hesitant buying. Like, I already don't buy a lot of Activision stuff. Like, I don't play any of the Call of Duties. Um, so like, it feels like the Blizzard stuff is kind of going that way too. Like, Diablo 4 is, I am going to see how well that one goes. But I've already seen some stuff about the monetization of Diablo 4, which, again, nowhere near as bad as Immortal. But it seems like it's heading in that direction. I did get into testing their mobile game, the Warcraft
The
Arclight.
Arclight? Yeah,
Yes.
I saw you on Battle.net. I was like, oh, we got in?
I have got in, and I am giving that a fair shake. Um, and honestly, it is hot mobile garbage. Like,
Mhm.
if you've played Clash Royale or Clash of Clans or any of those fucking games, it is that game. I will say the PvE stuff is entertaining. Like, it's a lot like Hearthstone's PvE campaign. Like, there's stuff you have to figure out, and there is a method to the madness. But it is hot mobile garbage. Like, you can just throw money at it and everything gets infinitely easier. And I have
Correct.
not spent anything on it. So I will not spend anything on it. Because everything that I'm doing right now is going to go away anyway. Because they literally plaster that. They're like, you can spend money now, but we're just going to delete everything and then just post that money to your account when it goes live. So you're
Mhm.
like just bankrolling them for interest at this point. Um, which, if you don't know that practice, that's a whole different practice. But yeah, I got into Arclight Rumble, and I've met people in PvP because I've tried PvP, and I don't enjoy the mobile. Like, I did Clash of Clans and Clash Royale and stuff when that was popular, and I kind of got my fill of that kind of mobile garbage. Um, So like I've dipped my toes into PvP. I think I got like from bronze 3 to like bronze 2 or something, like the very first rank. Um, but even at that rank, like I have met people that I just can tell have dumped so much money into this game, and they are just starting their whale journey. Like they normalize the level of all your units, and then you're supposed to have talents and stuff that level them up. Like most of my units are like level 1 in PvP. I think I have like 1 or 2 that are like level 2 because I have like a few talents. No lie, like one game last night, every unit this guy had was like level 5 or 6. So like literally my tankiest character would run up to his like anti, melee character, which is supposed to go down in like 2 hits, and he would like one hit my tank and then just move on, and then like 2 hit my buildings. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm not playing PvP anymore. But that whole story is basically showing you that they have found that they can just make more money that way. So Bobby Kotick is like, you guys will make these type of games now. So if you after this are still holding on to any hope that Blizzard of the past is there, it's there in the developers, but it will never make it to us at this point. My only hope now is this Microsoft merger goes through and Microsoft basically does what they did with Bethesda, and we're like,
Mhm.
okay, make the games you want to make. We will give you the resources. At that point, I can almost guarantee that we will still see mobile games as an influx of cash, especially now that World of Warcraft is struggling because that was always their cash cow to fund their other projects. Um, and I say struggling, but
Which is why we have the WoW token in Classic.
Yeah, I say struggling, but World of Warcraft is still profitable. Like it's just not
Mm.
as popular as it once was. But yes, that you will see more stuff like that, and I can tell you the WoW token in Classic is like such a shit show. Like that was
Mm.
like their again. Like, how could you do this in 2 weeks? You literally went back on 2 things that you promised the
Mhm.
community you were doing. You're like, we will never put the WoW token in Classic to uphold, the classic feel of it, and we have PVE for, um, you know, Overwatch, and they were both like, nope. WoW token and classic to prevent
Mhm.
RMT and no PVE. So yeah,
I was literally just in Bob's stream yesterday or the day before. I completely forgot to mention it or ask his opinion on it. We were
yeah,
too busy talking about Twitch and BlizzCon.
yeah. I'm curious to see how like the WoW classic devotees,
Mm.
um, and simps will try to defend that, because there is no defending it, because like they were even to the point in WoW classic, they were like, we don't even want to add the dungeon finder because we want to uphold the sense of the classic community. But then they were like, oh, by the way, here's a WoW token. And you know people are like, well, it combats RMT, like have you ever played classic? You get tons of gold spam. And I'm like, yes, I have. I actually played WoW Classic pretty regularly, while I didn't have any other MMOs to play. Like I leveled up a character to max level in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and I got gold spammed. Fun fact: you don't have to buy it; you just block them and move on.
Mhm.
But this now just fucks the whole economy, because now there are people out there that would not have bought gold that now will buy gold because it's easier to give Blizzard your money. So yeah, that's a whole nother like can of worms. But at the end of the day, this whole PvE system has basically just eroded so much trust in Blizzard for me
Mhm.
personally, that like I said, season 6 is make or break. Like if this and I'm gonna call it what it is, this fucking Call of Duty campaign, because that's all it is at this point, is a Call of Duty campaign with cutscenes, does it like impress me? I am probably gonna walk away from Overwatch, at least from a content creation, just
Right.
because of the fact that I there are other companies out there that I'd rather put my effort into at this point.
I definitely get that. And like at the end of the day, like I understand there are always going to be products out there that get scrapped behind the scenes. the problem here is a lot of those products aren't basically this major public announcement, at like their penultimate event of the year in BlizzCon, as like the key marketing point.
Yep.
Like this is what we were being sold on as a community. Like this is going to be the identity. We're going to have the PvP content. We're going to have the standalone PvE stuff. So to walk back on that, to really underdeliver on that initial promise, it's just like, well, where do we go from here? Is
Yep.
really the big thing, because I know a lot of people like they saw that, and we've had so many friends within like our content creator circle who have long stepped away from the game at this point in time because of said drought that
Yep.
we were on for such a long stretch headed into Overwatch 2, with the promise of PvE, who look back now and are just like, man, I'm glad I got out when I did. And
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
I can't blame them for having that mindset, because it's like I we're definitely at a point where it's like I don't feel it's necessary for us to be like walking on eggshells. Like as a content creator, we just have to say like outright, like
Nope.
if something is going awry and it's really getting underneath our skin, like we have to talk about it. Like we can't, everything just can't be sunshine, rainbows, and puppies.
Nope.
Uh,
Not
when it comes
anymore.
to things like this, we are far beyond that point. And enduring those 3-4 years of just like, man, like when are we finally gonna get like that influx of content? And that's not to say that I haven't enjoyed the content that we have gotten with Overwatch 2. I've absolutely been enjoying my time. Like, sure, I'm not always completing the battle pass because I haven't been able to play as much as maybe I would like to. But that's also because I haven't really dove into trying to just adapt a daily playstyle of like just logging in
Hmm.
to do the 3 dailies every day like you've been doing, which is a much better way to do it than the way I've been doing it. That's a
Yeah,
whole other
exactly.
discussion in its own right. But
No, it's sad
you know,
because
I
Overwatch is in like the best spot it's been in years,
mhm.
in terms of just a gameplay thing. So yeah, that it's sad that they rug pulled it so hard.
I just want at the end of the day, if we're not getting talent trees, give us a pick 3 option in arcade. Let us see it play out. Like I really want
Yep.
to see an arcade mode where we could have different talents on a team by team level and just see how it works. I'm not like, because loadouts in particular have been a staple for FPS games for such a long time at this point. Where even if it's not like, okay, we have like 20 different items at this point in time for like each hero, like we don't need to go that far. Just give us a pick 3 option. Let us see how see what talents people are using. Let's see if things are cookie cutter, because that's also like a thing that's been happened, regardless of if it's just a pick 3 or a talent tree,
Yep.
like we have seen in World of Warcraft. I just want to add that extra flavor to the play style of these different heroes, but it doesn't have to be like this whole expanded idea of like, oh well, what if we have like 41 points in making Soldier 76 more of a heal bot, or things
Yeah.
like that.
No, and then there are so many like low impact ways that they could add stuff like that. Like shit, they could even add like a roguelike system where as you're doing a story mission, you can pick between two upgrades, you know, multiple times, like one to
Mhm.
three times, so that there, you know, overall there's only six things you need to do. And it's you can make it low impact dumb stuff. Like you can make it like Soldier 70, like the stuff they did for April Fools, like Soldier 76 carries his health pack around, or you know, Reinhardt can't use his shield, but now he swings his hammer 365 degrees, you know, low impact stuff that at the end of the day will take some developer time, but doesn't take a new development team, to just change how you play these story missions. Because at the end of the day, like these story missions, we're going to play through once. You know, hardcore lore people will probably play through a couple of times to see if they can find any like Easter eggs. But at the end, you know, then we're done. until the next story mission comes. And they haven't told us what the cadence is going to be. Like, is it going to be every season? Like we expand the story? Is it going to be like every other season? Kind of thing. Because that's like one of the few things that I'm really enjoying in Destiny over the past probably year and a half is every new season, like the story is good and they release a new story mission every week. So it sucks that, you get like half an hour of content a week and then you go back to doing, your grind or, whatever you want to do. Um, but, Destiny has such a backlog that they have that grind there to fill that hole. Um, but the half an hour a week is such like a dopamine hit to do the story content. You're like, oh crap, like what's gonna happen to Zavala this week? Like, a major character died last week. Like, how are they gonna respond this week? Like, last week ended with everybody in mourning, kind of thing. So, if Overwatch can match that story tempo, I obviously will not be as happy as I would have been with the fully fleshed PvE mode. But I at that point I might be a little more, I don't want to say sympathetic, but it might ease it a little more. I'm like, okay, so the stuff you guys really did work on was really good. But like if we are getting like one mission every 9 weeks, that's not going to cut it at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am really curious to see how these story missions go. They did mention that there is like the hero mastery system coming, which is kind of like their new form of progression. And one thing I didn't touch on, which I want to mention, but I won't go into it too much, is all the stuff that we lost from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 that we are like slowly getting back, or it's just gone. So again, all that stuff was lost for like nothing, like no reasons. Like there is no looking for group right now. We are just now getting the on fire system. Workshop was a fucking mess. We still haven't gotten a replay viewer for Overwatch League. There, if all of your stats from Overwatch 1 for competitive are gone, like you can never go back and see any season before like season 31, I think, at this point. So like we lost, and that's just like the tip, but the iceberg. But we lost so much stuff for nothing at this point. Like honestly, at this point, I would be more happy if they dropped the 2 off of Overwatch. Just made it Overwatch again. Keep the 5v5 because I do think 5v5 is healthier for the game. Unless you're a tank player, then it's just more stressful. But it is, I think, overall more healthy for the game. And bring us back like that stuff we lost. And then you can be like, look, obviously our scope has changed, so we are willing to work around it. And, I don't know if we can get the stats back, but we should at least get the systems back. Like, so, and I honestly think if they did that, like if they came out and were like, look, we really messed up, like obviously a lot of stuff has changed since we initially announced Overwatch 2. We're working to just bring like Overwatch Reforged or whatever, like just Overwatch back to Overwatch. I think that would do a lot to help the community. Now, I don't think that will bring in any new players, but I think it will help the existing player base that is really mad. Kind of be like, okay, at least they're willing to acknowledge what they've done. And this iteration of the development team has been really good at that. Like they reverted the Mercy changes. They were like, look, we messed up on Mercy, so we're gonna put it back. And the old Overwatch team, look, as much as Jeff Kaplan and Jeff Goodman had some good ideas, they definitely were not that team that would admit their mistakes. So I think there is some easy things that they could do, and maybe things that are going to take more work to do that would help the community, because I mean, you talked about it. Like there are people outside of the community that are talking about this, and that is never a good thing. Like when Ludwig, who is the biggest YouTuber in the country, arguably, or on YouTube, I guess, arguably, starts a video by saying, "Look, I have never played a game of Overwatch, but here's what happened on Overwatch this week." It's not going to be a good thing. Now, Moist Critical Charlie, he had a very informative video, and you can tell like he enjoys Overwatch and he's actually played Overwatch. Um,
The
so
only thing I will mention though, because I did watch the Moist Critical one, is all these content creators who have been like churning out these things when it comes to like the development of Overwatch 2,
mhm,
all of them seem to be neglecting the fact that they completely overhauled the engine
mhm.
to the game in itself, and that's just like kind of gone on the wayside. I don't really think like they're putting like that into the scope. Yeah,
Yeah,
everything
but
else I completely agree with. Yeah.
why did they overhaul the engine, Totem? Tell me. To accommodate
For
PvE.
PvE content, right?
So, look, if you want like the best take on the PvE situation, go watch the SVB podcast
Mhm.
where it has like him, Siegel, Frito, Flats, Samito. When Samito and Flats and Frito are all bringing the same energy, you
Mhm.
fucked up. You fucked up,
Yeah.
Blizzard. Because I don't like. I enjoy Samito on the podcast because he's a little more tempered and he makes a lot of good points. I don't enjoy Samito's streams because he's just like a
it's
rage
it's
out.
not his stream presence or his Twitter.
Yeah, I don't enjoy that level of Samito, but on the podcast he makes some good points. But his video was actually really good. Um, all of them were. I guess the final thing I'll say on this is, I don't know if you saw it, but did you see that Siegel called this like 8 months ago?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he literally at one point said like they're just gonna roll it out seasonally, and that's gonna be all we get at one point. And it's crazy. Like even like all the other content creators are like, he's a fucking prophet. Like how did he know that? Like he called that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure most people at this point have seen the other content creators' takes, but if you have not watched that full, I think it's like 2.5, 3 hours of that SVP podcast, like special, like the PVE debate or something is what he calls it. Like that is like the best place to do it because it happened close enough to the announcement that they were all really mad, but enough from the announcement that they could take like a more logical approach to it. So, I definitely recommend checking that out. Like, put it on the car if you have a drive or something like that. It is a good listen because they all bring up really good points.
Absolutely. Now, just taking a quick look at the upcoming roadmap, which is also tied into this, because they were talking about PVE components for season 6. At season 5, we got a new limited time event, Quest Watch. We got Mistress and Magic. The thing I don't like about this is like we didn't get the blog post right after to talk about like what any of this stuff is. But we got a new cinematic. The return of the Summer Games is happening. We also have a mini competitive season, whatever the hell that is. Like, are we gonna have like smalls mode? Like, what is that?
No, no, no. That's like the like capture the flag and shit like that.
Oh, okay. So one of the throwaways,
Yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, and then the return of workshop mode, which okay. Here's the thing. Obviously, there are a ton of great workshop mode creators out there within the community.
yeah.
Obviously, here in the PvE news, you can bet your bottom dollar. People are going to look at that and be like, all right, fuck it. We're going to do this ourselves.
I'm gonna
You
do it
know what's going to
myself.
happen.
Honestly, I bet you people already are making Overwatch PvE in the Fortnite editor because you have the full Unreal Engine editor in Fortnite.
Right.
Like I would not be surprised if we see something like that coming um you know down the line. But yeah, like Quest Watch to me just says like it's going to be some kind of, I don't know, like kind of what I alluded to earlier, like it could possibly be some kind of roguelite event where you get to pick upgrades and stuff like that. Like it definitely seems like RPG-ish.
Yeah.
Obviously the whole season is going to be fantasy-ish, so that is going to sell skins like nobody's business because people eat. I mean, look at Witch Mercy. Witch Mercy is still like one of the top skins. So we also are going to get a cinematic, and Lucio Ball's coming back. I assume. I'm curious to see what they do for summer games. I hope we get something new, but
We're gonna get 2 balls.
they did it already. So 3 balls.
3 balls. Add 1 more to the counter.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're gonna add an extra jump pad.
They'll throw Lifeweaver in there as the goalkeeper. But yeah, season 5 is going to be essentially season 4, like season 3. Not season 4, because season 4 we had a new character, even though Lifeweaver doesn't get much play. But it's going to be like season.
Just gonna add another support hero. You know, it's fine.
Yeah, season 3. So, and then season 6 is obviously going to be the big one. We are going to get to see what this campaign looks like. Obviously, we're going to get a new support hero. They have Flashpoint on there, which I is that the new game mode? Or
I would imagine so. I mean, it would make sense because that lines up with the anniversary.
Yeah, because they also mentioned, Hero Mastery is coming there. Like, I imagine we are going to get a big update for Season 6 because that has Hero Mastery and player progression system. So I feel like those two are different. So I'm curious to see what they do there because Hero Mastery could very well boil down to, do certain things on Hero, unlock name card kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes. And then they kind of posted like a little bit beyond, like there's a new winter event coming. So, you may have escaped May jail at this point.
Thank God, because if I've had any issues with May, it was by far Winter Wonderland modes. Bane of my existence.
Fan favorite modes return. Like, what?
2 CP.
Is that the May modes? Like, are they alluding to the May modes? A new collab event. Like, they are already hyping up that collab event with whatever it's going to be. I have to feel like it's going to be another anime, but
One Piece.
Oh God,
Labasco
is in trouble at that point. No One Piece, I think, obviously Labasco can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like One Piece doesn't do a whole lot of collaborations, so I think that would be interesting if they were able to pull that off.
I mean, if I had a cherry pick, I would personally prefer Demon Slayer.
I would enjoy Demon Slayer too. But I'm trying to think, like, I don't know. That's a discussion for another time. And then they listed 2 reworks, like Roadhog and Sombra. Like, what level are these reworks? Because the last rework you sold us was Brig, and all you did was take her shield and do this. Whoo! And now she can stun again. Like, okay, cool. Look, I understand that took some art assets, but I wouldn't call what you did to Brig a rework. Like, I would just consider that, like, you made her ultimate slightly better and included new art for it. Like, that's not a rework. Like, a rework is when they've retooled Symmetra for the 14th time and then now suddenly she's playable. That is a rework. Getting rid of Torbjorn's level 3 turret and health packs or armor packs, that is a rework. When you fundamentally change how a character plays, that is a rework. Nothing has changed about how Brig plays. She's just better at how she played before. So I hope the Hog and Sombra reworks live up to their name. Specifically the Roadhog, because I feel like Roadhog is like one of the few holdovers from Overwatch 1 that didn't translate well into Overwatch 2. Like, obviously Soldier's another one that like held out almost 1-to-1, but Soldier's such like a baseline character that I think he kind of needs to be that way. Sombra, I'm a little more curious on, and this is something we can talk about later. But the last one, it's technically second to last, but the last one I want to talk about is the lore codex. So I think this for 99% of people is not going to matter at all,
Mhm.
and it is going to directly correlate to how good those campaign missions are. Because I feel like the lore codex is going to be like, here is everything that happened up to this point, and we are going to fill this out as we go along. So I think it could answer some certain questions, but I hope it's not just like some fucking random entries like, oh, Jesse McCree joined the Deadlock gang. They robbed some shit. Here's an interaction between him and Ash. Oh, Jesse McCree got caught by Overwatch and was forced
Mhm.
into, Blackwatch. Like, hey, Jesse McCree became Cassidy, wanting to be
Yeah.
his true name. Like, I hope it's not dumb stuff like that, because like, again, I'm gonna go back. Like, I hope this is similar to how Destiny does their lore now, because they literally have like lore books that you fill out as the season goes along, and each entry in the lore book is like, I don't know, 10 to 15 paragraphs long, that you can sit there and be like, okay, well, this thing did this, and this is a god, and blah 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 blah. And most people are never gonna read it, but the people like me who are interested in the lore, I'm like, oh, so that's the voice that keeps talking to us, and they're really bad, kind of thing. So it will be interesting to learn, and I hope they can use the lore codex to kind of hint at future characters a little better. I feel like it would be a good, like, we can learn more about like Maga and his interaction with Baptiste and stuff. So I hope they do well with that. But all in all, there's not a whole lot on this thing that is like, boy, I really got to log in and play Overwatch today. There's a lot of cool stuff that could be interesting, but yeah, like at the end of the day, I'm like, no, I there might be other games, that are gonna start taking up more of my time.
Right. Yeah, like at the end of the day though, like we can't undersell season 6. Season 6 being the anniversary patch with whatever form of PvE content we're going to get, like this is by and large going to be the biggest update we'll see for Overwatch 2.
Oh, easily.
So that's basically going to be the point where which will give us a distinction of whether or not Overwatch 2 was the game with the biggest scope that underdelivered.
There are a lot of games that you could put in that category, but I'd hate to be here, but it is entirely possible. So
Mhm.
we'll see, at that point. Like I said, season 6 is my make or break. Like at that point, I am, that is going to be around BlizzCon, that is going to be around, um honestly, at that point, they will have shown off the final. I say final, but the final um, shape for Destiny, which is going to be like the final expansion in the current Destiny story, kind of like how Final Fantasy just did Endwalker, which is like the end of the Hydaelyn Zodiac saga for Final Fantasy. Um, Obviously, clearly, I like lore of games because I can
Mhm.
name all this shit that does me no good. But you know, there are going to be a lot of games that I'm like, I'm going to want to sink my teeth into, and Overwatch at this point, like you said, has become like a daily do my 3 games, log out kind of thing. Like there was a point when I was playing Overwatch 4 to 6 hours a day on like my days off. And obviously that was before I had kids, but or I had less kids, I guess, at that point.
Mhm.
But so that playtime's never going to return. But
Mhm.
there, I don't know. It's rough, and I last week's take would have been a lot more spicy than this one. But I am still not going to cut Blizzard any slack at this point. Like, if season 6 is not amazing, there's definitely some inner conversations that need to be had at that point on how I need to spend my time.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it at this point it should go without saying. Like, if I'm feeling this as like one of the OGs of Overwatch content creation, hell, how many other of the closed beta Overwatch content creators do you guys know that are still churning out content
Right, exactly.
at this
Like
point in time? Literally no one. There
I
are no others at this point in time. Like,
I remember borrowing a friend's account so I could play in the Overwatch betas, like
mhm,
because he's like, dude, I don't have any interest in this game, and they gave me beta. I'm like, dude, I've been trying to get into beta for like months. Like, what the hell?
right.
So yeah, I mean, it's sad that it's come this far, and you know, like one of the most sad things to me is like there was nothing special on like Overwatch's anniversary that just passed. Like the original Overwatch's anniversary
Mhm.
was 2 days ago, and like we got like a tweet, like
Yeah.
that was it. Like there, dude, they couldn't even give us like a fucking souvenir or like a weapon dongle or whatever they call them, a weapon charm.
Yeah, the
Um,
charm.
like, do we even got one of those for Earth Day? Like, come on, guys. Like, I understand that you're focusing more on like it's Overwatch 2, so its anniversary is later in the year, but like you could acknowledge the original Overwatch's anniversary in the game, like, and the fact that instead of the archives events, which most people really enjoyed, we got Star Watch was disappointing. Like I don't know. I can rant all night about my current disappointments, but I think I've ranted enough.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. So, just as a reminder, we will be off next week.
Hmm.
Then we'll be back the week after since we have been doing them bi-weekly recordings. Um, I am probably still going to be streaming on our off weeks.
Yep.
Um, whether it's Overwatch or if I just add like another movie night, remains to be seen on that front. But of course, I'll be streaming over on Kick. It did kick.com/totally drunk. You can find me there streaming usually at minimum, at least on Tuesdays, 'cause that's when we do the movie night. And then obviously we also, stream the podcast over on there and on YouTube and on Twitch, all the places, because, Spider restreams it on
All
that
the
front.
places.
But yeah, definitely, we're in a weird spot right now. And we're going to be in this spot until season 6 comes out, when which is going to be the pivotal season for a lot of us, or a lot of the mainstays that are still sticking their guns at this point in time. But we'll have to wait and see how they handle it, because like you need, like, there's no sugarcoating it. If they don't like make things right by the community, there will not be a community.
No, like it. Yeah, they look at all the content creators. Like all the content creators have already started like branching out. Like
Hmm.
Flats was playing Apex, and Siegel has always been. I would consider Siegel more of a variety streamer at this point.
Yes.
Like obviously he still does a lot of Overwatch, but Siegel straight up said like, I'll probably get addicted to Overwatch here and there for a couple of weeks, and then go play Apex or whatever's currently on. Um, and we'll see that happening with probably more of them. Like CarQ's been branching out. Like he was playing God of War. Um, so we'll have to see. Like, and that's not a good place to be in, because once you start losing the content creators, they are like your last champion. So
Hmm.
we'll see. We'll see how season 6 goes. But you know, after this week, I probably will not be as doom and gloomy. Like I saved that mood for this show. I will still be quite critical,
Hmm.
but I still really enjoy Overwatch League. Like I know you and I and like 17 other people actually really enjoy it and are not farming it for tokens. But I do actually really enjoy Overwatch League. So, that kind of stuff still I still enjoy talking and, going through. And I had talked about like Winston's Lab last time, and I had really wanted to like dig into that more.
Mhm.
But like I said, the past 2 weeks for me have been an absolute shit show. So after Memorial Day weekend, I can start my summer vacation and I can actually sit down and enjoy things again.
Right on. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, of course, if you are looking to keep in touch with us, you can reach us over on social media. You can find us over on Twitter at HND Overwatch. All of our video content is readily available on our YouTube, which is at Overwatch League Network or at HND Overwatch. And of course, you can join our community Discord and reach us there at discord.me/OWLN show. Outside of that, of course, you could also find all of our hosts also on Twitter. You can find Ramses, who, yeah, quite quiet as a mouse today, apparently. He is
Yep.
at Ramses_GG. You can find myself at Totally Drunk and Spider. Where can our listeners reach you?
You can find me at _Spyder Gaming, but Discord's the best way to get a hold of me. Like I don't check Twitter, and now I check it even less because if you remember, like a few shows back, I said the only reason I ever get on Twitter anymore is because I have it to automatically post when I post YouTube videos.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, Twitter fucking took that away this week, so
Hmm.
I'm not paying for Twitter Blue to have that functionality, so I am on Twitter even less now. Um, but if you DM me, I'll probably see it eventually. If not, check out the Discord. Like Discord is honestly like the best place to get a hold of me because whether it's on my phone or my desktop, I have Discord up. So join the Discord.
Absolutely. Same with me. My Discord is always up. All right, guys. Well, we will see you back in 2 weeks' time. Don't forget to go check out the Symmetra challenge, which we barely touched on, but like it's also not like a huge deal either. Like it's
Mm.
just you kind of know what to expect. It's very paint by the numbers when it comes to like the weekly challenges and things like that. But you can complete it in arcade or competitive or unranked. Pick your poison basically at this point in time, but yeah, definitely all felt like we were dying that past week though, because man, definitely major blow to just the Overwatch community as a whole. But until then, guys, you enjoy your off week, and we'll see you around. You guys take care.
See ya.